Chapter 16. Angel knew she couldn't go on like this much longer. Her lungs had started burning bad an hour ago. She hadn't been able to feel her leg muscles for longer than that. But every time she stopped running, a sadistic white coat, Riley, zapped her with a stick thing. It jolted electricity into her, making her yelp and jump. She had 4 burn marks already from it, and they really, really hurt. And what was worse was she could feel his eager anticipation. He wanted to hurt her. Well, he could zap her 1,000 million times if he wanted to. This was it. She couldn't go on. It was a relief to let go. Angel saw the whole world narrow down to a little fuzzy tube in front of her, and then even that went gray. She sort of felt herself falling, felt her feet tangle in the treadmill belt. The zap came once, twice, 3 times, but it felt distant, more an unpleasant stinging than real pain. Then Angel was lost in a dream, and Max was there. Max was stroking her sweaty hair and crying. Angel knew it was a dream because Max never cried. Max was the strongest person she knew, not that she had known that many people. Ripping sounds and a new searing pain on her skin pulled Angel back. She blinked into white lights, hospital lights, prison lights. She smelled that awful smell and almost retched. Hands were pulling off all the electrodes taped to her skin. Rip, rip, rip. Oh my God, 3.5 hours. Riley was murmuring, and its heart rate only increased by 17%, and then, at the end, it was only in the last, 20 minutes that its peak oxygen levels broke. It, Angel thought, and wanted to scream. I am not an it! I can't believe we got a chance to study Subject 11. I've been wanting to dissect this recombinant for 4 years, another low voice said. Interesting intelligence levels. I can't wait to get a brain sample. Angel felt their admiration, their crummy pleasure. They liked all the things wrong with her, all the ways she wasn't normal. And all those stupid long words added up to one thing. Angel was an experiment. To the white coats, she was a piece of science equipment, like a test tube. She was an it. Someone put a straw into her mouth. Water. She started swallowing quick. She was so thirsty, like she'd been eating sand. Then another white coat scooped her up. She was too tired to fight. I have to think how to get out of here, she reminded herself, but thoughts were really hard to string together right now. Someone opened the door of her dog crate and flopped her inside. Angel lay where she fell. At least she was lying down. She just had to sleep for a while. Then she would try to escape. Wearily, she blinked and saw the fish boy staring at her. The other boy was gone. Poor little guy had been gone this morning, hadn't come back. Might not. Not me, Angel thought. I'm gonna fight. Right after I... Chapter 17. This bed was horrible. What was wrong with my bed? Irritated, I punched my pillow into a better shape, then started sneezing hysterically as clouds of dust sailed up my nose. Achoo! I grabbed my nose in an attempt to keep some of my brains inside my head, but the sudden movement caused me to lose my balance, and with no warning, I fell hard onto the floor. Crash! Ouch, son of a... I scrambled to get up. My hands hit rough upholstery and the edge of a table. Okay, now I was lost. Prying open my bleary eyes, I peered around. Where was I? I looked around wildly. I was in a cabin. A cabin? Oh, a cabin. Right. It was, dark 30, not yet dawn. I leaped to my feet, scanned the room, and saw nothing to be alarmed about. Except for the fact that, obviously, Fang, Nudge, and I had just wasted precious hours sleeping. Oh my God! I hurried over to Nudge, who was sprawled across a recliner. Nudge, Nudge, wake up. Aw, man. I turned to Fang to find him swinging his feet over the edge of a couch. He sneezed and shook his head. What time is it? He asked calmly. Almost morning, I said, terribly upset. Of the next day! He was already moving toward the kitchen cupboards. He found an ancient, stained backpack in a closet, and now he methodically started to fill it with cans of tuna, sealed bags of crackers, zip-locked bags of trail mix. What's happening? Nudge asked, blinking groggily. We fell asleep, I told her, grabbing her hands and pulling her upright. Come on, we've got to go. Dropping to all fours, I raked my shoes out from under the couch and blew dust bunnies off of them. Fang, you can't carry all that, I said. It'll weigh you down. Nothing's heavier than cans. Fang shrugged and pulled the backpack on. Stubborn kind of fella. He moved soundlessly across the room and slipped through the window like a shadow. Now I was jamming Nudge's shoes back onto her feet, rubbing her back, trying to wake her up. Nudge was always a really slow waker. Usually I appreciated the lack of word spew, which would begin when she was fully functioning, but right now we needed to move, move, move. I practically threw Nudge through the window, slithered out myself, then propped the screen back in place as best I could. A quick run down a country road and we were off, stroking hard, pushing to get airborne. Sorry, Angel. Sorry, 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 my baby. Chapter 18. Okay. Despite the imminent sunrise, I felt better once we were flying above the treetops. But still, how stupid was that? What kind of loser was I to let us fall asleep in the middle of a freaking rescue? I thought about Angel waiting for us, and my heart clenched. With a sense of dread, I banked and set us going about 10-12 degrees southwest. Anxiety fueled my wings, and I had to remember to find good air currents, set my wings at an angle, and coast when I could. We had to rest, Fang said, coming up beside me. I shot him an upset glance. For 10 hours? Today we've got another 4 hours to go, maybe a bit more, he said. We couldn't have done it all in one shot. It was late when we left. We were going to have to stop again anyway, right before we get there and refuel. There's nothing more annoying than cold logic and reason when you've got a good fit going. Fang was right, of course. Sigh. And, of course, we'd have to stop again. We hadn't even hit the California border yet. Far from it. We going to storm the place or what? Fang asked an hour later. Yeah, Max, I was wondering what your plan was, said Nudge, coming up alongside. I mean, there's only 3 of us and a whole bunch of them, and the erasers have guns. Could we, drive a truck through the gates? Or even into a building? Or maybe we could wait till nightfall, sneak in, and sneak out with Angel before anyone notices us. That crazy thought cheered her up. I kept silent. I didn't have the heart to tell her we had about as much chance of that as we did of flying to the moon. But if worst came to worst, I had a secret plan C. If it worked, everyone would escape and get free. Except me. But that was okay. Chapter 19. Despite my growing anxiety, it was glorious up here. Not many birds flew this high, some falcons, hawks, other raptors. Every once in a while, some of them would come check us out, probably thinking, man, those are some dang ugly birds. This high up, the land below took on a checkered board effect of Robin Hoodsy greens and browns. Cars looked like busy ants moving purposely down their trails. Every once in a while, I picked up something small down below and focused on it. It was cool how some tiny little thing, like a swimming pool, a tractor, whatever, would ratchet into focus. At least those maniacs at the school hadn't had time to improve my vision like they improved Iggy's. Gosh, I wonder what Iggy and the Gasman are doing now, Nudge babbled. Maybe they got the TV working again. I hope they don't feel too bad. I would have. I mean, I guess it's kind of easier for them to be home, but I bet they're not cleaning up or getting wood or doing any of their chores. I bet they're cursing my name from dawn to dusk, but at least they're safe. Absently, I chose a flickering shape below and focused on it. watching a small blob become people, take on features, clothing, individuality. It was a group of kids, maybe my age, maybe older, who couldn't be more unlike me. Well, so what? I thought. They were just boring kids stuck on the ground doing homework, with bedtimes and a million grown-ups telling them what to do, how to do everything all the time. Alarm clocks and school and afternoon jobs. Those poor saps. While we were free, free, free. Soaring through the air like rockets, being cradled by breezes, doing whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. Pretty good, huh? I almost convinced myself. I glanced down again and refocused. Then I scowled. What had, at first, looked like just a bunch of boring, earthbound kids schlepping to school together now turned, upon closer examination, into what looked like several big kids surrounding a much smaller kid. Okay, maybe I'm paranoid, danger everywhere, but I could swear the bigger kids looked really threatening. The bigger kids were boys. The smaller kid in the middle was a girl. Coincidence? I think not. Don't even get me started about the whole Y chromosome thing. I live with 3 guys, remember? They're 3 of the good ones, and they're still obnoxious as all get out. I made one of my famous snap decisions, the kind that everyone remembers later for being either the stupidest dumb butt thing they ever saw, or else the miraculous saving of the day. I seem to hear more about the first kind. That's gratitude for you. I turned to Fang and barely opened my mouth. No, he said. I narrowed my eyes. I opened my mouth again. No. Meet me at the northmost point of Lake Mead, I said. What? What are you talking about? Nudge asked. Are we stopping? I'm hungry again. Max wants to go be Supergirl, Defender of the Weak, Fang said, sounding irritated. Oh. Nudge looked down, frowning at the ground as if it would all become clear soon. I had started a wide circle that would take me back toward the girl below. I kept thinking, what if that girl was in trouble, like Angel, and no one stopped to help her? Oh, Max, remember when you got that little rabbit away from the fox and we kept it in the carton in the kitchen, and when it was, well, you let it go? That was cool. Nudge paused. Did you see another rabbit? Kind of, I said, my patience starting to wear thin. It'll take 2 seconds. I told Fang, I'll catch up with you guys before you've gone 40 miles. Just keep on course, and if anything weird happens, I'll meet you at Lake Mead. Fang stared ahead, and the wind whipped through his hair. He hated this. I knew it. Well, you can't please everybody all the time. Okay, I said briskly. See you in a few. Chapter 20. The thing about Iggy was, well, sometimes he could figure out stuff like a real scientist. He was that super smart. Scary smart. Do we have any chlorine? The gas man asked Iggy. It seems to be kind of explosive when mixed with other stuff. Iggy frowned. Like what, your socks? No, we don't have chlorine. No swimming pool. What color is this wire? The gas man leaned over and examined the tangled pile of stereo guts spread out on the kitchen table. It looks like a robot came in here and threw up, he observed. That wire's yellow. Okay, keep track of the yellow wire. Very important. Do not confuse it with the red one. The gas man consulted the schematics he had downloaded off the internet. This morning, Iggy had unfrozen the computer fan inside the CPU, so the computer now worked without shutting down in hysteria every 10 minutes. He had just fixed the computer. Presto changeo. Okie dokie, Gazzy muttered, flipping through the pages. Next step, we need some kind of timing device. Iggy thought for a moment, then he smiled. Even his eyes seemed to smile. Well, that's an evil grin, Gazzer said uneasily. Go get me Max's alarm clock. The Mickey Mouse one. Chapter 21. I landed a bit hard and had to run really fast to keep from doing a total faceplant. I was somewhere in Arizona, trotting through scrubby brush behind a deserted warehouse. I pulled my wings in, feeling them fold, hot from exercise, into a tight accordion on either side of my spine. I tied my windbreaker around my neck. There, perfectly normal looking. When I rounded the corner of the warehouse, I saw that there were 3 guys, maybe 15, 16 years old. The girl looked younger, maybe 12 or so. "I told you not to tell anybody about my little situation with Ortiz," one boy was yelling at her. "It was none of your business. I had to teach him a lesson." The girl bit her lip, looking angry and scared. "By beating him up? He looks like he got hit by a car. And he didn't do anything to you," she said, and I thought, "You go, girl." "He mouthed off to me. He exists. He breathes my air," said the guy, and his jerk friends laughed meanly. God, what creeps. Armed creeps. One of them was holding a shotgun loosely in the crook of his arm. "America, right to bear arms, yada, yada, yada." How old were these yahoos? Did their parents know they had guns? It gets so tiring, the strong picking on the weak stuff. It was the story of my life, literally, and it seemed to be a big part of the outside world, too. I was sick of it, sick of guys like these, stupid and bullying. I stepped out from beside the building. The girl saw me, and her eyes flicked in surprise. It was enough. The guys wheeled to look behind them. Just another stupid girl, they thought, relieved. Their eyes lingered a moment on my scratched face, my black eye, but they didn't keep watching me. Mistake number 1. "So, Ella, what have you got to say for yourself?" the lead guy taunted. "Is there any reason I shouldn't teach you a lesson, too?" 3 guys against 1 girl. That seems about even, I said, striding up. It was hard to keep the fury off my face. My blood was singing with it. "Shut up, chick," one of the boys snapped. "You better get out of here if you know what's good for you." "Can't," I said, walking up to stand next to the girl named Ella. She looked at me in alarm. "Actually, I think kicking your stupid butts would be good for me." They laughed. Mistake number 2. Like the rest of the flock, I'm much stronger than even a grown man. Genetic engineering at work. And all of us had been trained in self-defense by Jeb. I had skills. Until yesterday, I'd never had to use them. If I could just get Ella out of here. "Grab Big Mouth," said the head guy, and the other 2 moved to flank me, which made mistake number 3. Bam. "You're out." I moved fast, 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 with no warning. I snapped a high kick right to the lead jerk's chest. A blow that would have only knocked Fang's breath away actually seemed to snap a rib on this guy. I heard the crack, and the guy choked, looking shocked, and fell backward. The remaining guys rushed me at once. I whirled and grabbed the shotgun out of one's hands. Holding its barrel, I swung it in a wide arc against the side of his head. Crack! Stunned, he staggered sideways as a bright red flow of blood streamed from his scalp. I glanced over and saw Ella standing there, looking afraid. I hope not of me. "Run!" I yelled at her. "Get out of here!" After a moment of hesitation, she turned and ran, leaving a little cloud of red dust behind her. The 3rd grabbed my arm, and I yanked it loose, then swung and punched him, aiming for his chin but hitting the nose. I winced. Oops. Feeling his nose break, and there was a slow-motion pause of about a second before it started gushing blood. Jeezums, humans were like eggshells. The bully boys were a mess, but still they staggered to their feet, rage and humiliation twisting their ugly faces. One of them picked up his gun and cocked it, favoring his right arm. "You're gonna be so sorry," he promised, spitting blood out of his mouth and starting toward me. "Bet I won't," I said. Then I turned tail and raced for the woods as fast as I could. Chapter 22. Of course, if I could have taken off, I'd have been a little speck in the sky by then. But I couldn't let those yo-yos see my wings, and within seconds I was in the woods anyway. I ran through the underbrush, smacking branches out of my way, glad I was wearing shoes. I had no idea where I was going. Behind me, I could hear a couple of bozos yelling, swearing, threatening. I wanted to laugh, but couldn't spare the time. I was steadily increasing the distance between us. Then I heard a loud bang from the shotgun, and the tree bark exploded around my head. That stupid gun! Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Are you wondering if I noticed the similarities between this asinine situation and my dream? Well, yeah. I'm not an idiot. As to what it all meant, well, I'll work on that later. In the next second, there was another bang, and almost simultaneously a sudden searing pain in my left shoulder. I gasped and glanced over to see blood blossoming on my sleeve. That idiot actually hit me. Then sheer bad luck made me instantly trip over a tree root, fall on my hurt shoulder, and slide crazily down a steep slope through bushes, underbrush, vines, and rocks. I tried to grab anything, but my left arm couldn't move well, and my right hand scrambled uselessly. Finally, I tumbled to a stop at the bottom of an overgrown ravine. Looking up, I saw only green. I was covered by vines and shrubs. I lay very still, trying to catch my breath, trying to think. Far above me, I heard the wild boys yelling and shooting again. They sounded like elephants crashing through the woods, and I tracked them clearly as they ran right past where I fell. I felt like an ogre had just beaten me all over with a club. I could barely move my left arm, and it hurt like fire. I tried to stretch out my wing, only to suck my breath in hard as I found it had been hit too. I couldn't see it well over my shoulder, but my big clue was the screaming pain. I was scraped all over, had lost my windbreaker, and, if I wasn't mistaken, I was sitting in a patch of poison ivy. Slowly, I stood up, smothering gasps of pain. I had to get out of here. I checked the sun and started working my way north. I swallowed a groan as I realized that Nudge and Fang were no doubt wondering where the heck I was. I had messed up big time. Angel was waiting for me too, if she was still alive. I had let them all down. On top of it, I was hurt pretty bad and had gun-toting maniacs after me. Crap. I scowled. It was in my nature to fight for the underdog. Jeb had always told me it was my fatal flaw. Jeb had been right. Chapter 23. Fang, I'm really hungry, you know? It had been almost an hour since Max had left them. Nudge still didn't understand exactly what had happened, where Max had gone. Fang nodded curtly, then motioned with his head. Nage banked slightly and followed him. They were coming up on some cliffs, flat on top and made of straighted rock. Fang headed toward a shadowy indentation, and Nudge started backpedaling to slow down for a landing. This close, the indentation turned into a broad, shallow cave, and Nudge ducked a bit as she sat down inside. Fang landed almost silently beside her. The cave went maybe 15 feet in and was about 20 feet wide, tapering at both ends. The floor was sandy and dry, and Nudge sat down thankfully. Fang took off his backpack and started handing her food. "Oh, yes, yes," Nudge said, ripping open a bag of dried fruit. Fave waved a chocolate bar in front of her, and she squealed happily. "Oh, Fang, where did you find this? You must have been hiding it. You didn't say anything, and all this time you've had chocolate, and oh, God, it's so good." Fang gave her a little smile and sat down. He bit into his chocolate and closed his dark eyes for a few moments, chewing slowly. "So, where's Max?" Nudge asked a few minutes later. "Why'd she go down there? Shouldn't she be back by now? Aren't we supposed to go all the way to Lake Mead? What are we gonna do if she doesn't come back soon?" She stopped when Fang held up his hand. "Max saw someone in trouble down below and went to help," he said in his quiet, deliberate voice. "We'll wait here for her. Lake Mead is right below us." Nudge worried. Every second counted. So why were they stuck here? What was Max doing that was more important than Angel? She finished her last dried apricot and looked around. Okay, now that Fang mentioned it, she could see the blue edge of Lake Mead off to her left. Nudge stood up. Her head barely touched the ceiling. Their cave had a fairly wide ledge on either side of it, and she walked out on the ledge to see the lake better. She froze. Fang? Chapter 24. Fang came out next to Nudge, then stood perfectly still. The ledge curved upward toward the top of the cliff. Thin, scrubby plants dotted the area, and boulders stuck out of hard-packed clay and rock. In and among the rocks and plants were large nests, each about 2 feet across. Most of the nests had large, fuzzy fledglings in them, and most of the fledglings had larger, rust-colored parents. And most of the parents were staring tensely at Nudge and Fang with cold predator's eyes. "What are they?" Nudge whispered out of the side of her mouth. "Pharyngnus hawks," Fang said softly. "Largest raptor in the States. Sit down very slowly. No sudden movements, or we're both bird feed." "Okay," Nudge thought, gradually sinking to her knees. She wanted to turn and run, but guessed if she did, she might be attacked. The few talons she could see looked lethal, not to mention the severe beaks, sharply curved and mean-looking. "Do you think," she began, but Fang motioned for her to be quiet. Very quiet. He lowered himself next to her, his eyes on the birds. One of the hawks had a partially dismembered gopher in its mouth. Its fledglings were squawking loudly for it. After several minutes, Nudge felt like she needed to scream. She hated sitting still, had a million things to ask, didn't know how much longer she could take this inaction. A small movement caught her eye. Fang was very slowly extending one of his wings. Every hawk head swiveled in unison, their eyes focused on the wing like lasers. "I'm letting them catch my scent." Fang's lips barely moved. What felt like a year later, the hawks seemed to relax a bit. They were huge, with an almost 5-foot wingspan, and looked cold and powerful. On top, their wing feathers were mostly brown with russet streaks, and they were streaked with white below. Not unlike Nudge's own wings, except hers were so much bigger, twice as big. Some hawks went back to feeding their noisy offspring. Others left in search of food. Still others returned with dinner. "Ew," Nudge couldn't help whispering when one hawk brought back a still wriggling snake. The fledglings were excited to see it and practically climbed over one another trying to get the first bite. Double ew. Fang turned his head slowly and grinned at her. Nudge was so surprised that she smiled back. This was pretty cool. She was itchy to leave, wished Max would show up soon, and wished they had more food, but all the same, it was pretty awesome to sit here in the sun, surrounded by huge, beautiful birds, her own wings stretched out and resting. She guessed it couldn't hurt to do this for a bit longer. Chapter 25. But not that long. "Angel's waiting for us," Nudge said a bit later. "I mean, she's like a little sister, like everyone's little sister." She brushed some rock dust off her already dusty tan legs and scowled, picking at a scab on her knee. "At night, when we're supposed to be asleep, me and Angel talk and tell jokes and stuff." Her large brown eyes met Fang's. "I mean, am I going to have to sleep in that room alone whenever we get home? Max has to come back. She wouldn't let Angel go, right?" "No," said Fang. "She won't let Angel go. Look, you see how that big hawk, the one with the dark stripes on its shoulders, you see how he seems to move one wing faster than the other when he banks? It makes his bank really tight and smooth. We should try it." Nudge looked at him. That was probably the longest speech she'd ever heard Fang make. She turned to watch the hawk he'd pointed out. "Yeah, I see what you mean." But she'd barely finished before Fang had stood up, run lightly toward the edge of the cliff, and leaped off. His large, powerful, dark wings caught the air and swooped him up. Fang flew closer to where the other hawks were circling in a kind of hawk ballet. Nudge sighed. She really, really wished Max were here. Was Max hurt? Should they go back? She would ask Fang when he returned. Just then he swept past her, level with their cave. "Come on," he called. "Try it. You'll fly better." Nudge sighed again and brushed some chocolate crumbs off her shirt. Wasn't he worried about Angel? If he was, he probably wouldn't show it, she guessed. But she knew Fang loved Angel. He'd read to her before she learned how to read, and even now she still held her when she was upset about something. Well, I might as well practice too. Better than sitting around doing nothing. She flung herself off the cliff, unable to keep a bittersweet happiness from flooding her chest. It just felt so beautiful to float in the air, to move her wings strongly and feel herself glide freely through space. She flew alongside Fang, and he demonstrated the move for her. She watched him and imitated. It worked great. She flew in huge circles, practicing the move and flying closer to the hawks, who seemed to be tolerating her. As long as she didn't think about Max or Angel, she would be okay. That evening, Nudge lay on her stomach, her wings flat out around her, and watched the parent hawks grooming their young. They were so gentle, so attentive. These fierce, strong birds were carefully smothering their fledglings' molted white feathers, feeding them, helping them get out of their nest to practice flying. A lump came to her throat. She sniffled. "What?" said Fang. "These birds," said Nudge, wiping her eyes and feeling stupid. "Like, these dumb hawks have more of a mom than I ever had. The parents are taking care of the little ones. No one ever did that for me. Well, besides Max, but she's not a mom." "Yeah, I get it." Fang didn't look at her. His voice almost sounded sad. The sun set and the hawks settled down in their nests. Finally, the raucous fledglings quieted. When it had been dark for an hour, Fang edged closer to Nudge and held out his left hand in a fist. Nudge looked up at him, then stacked her left fist on top of his. It was something the flock always did together before bedtime. Except they hadn't done it when they'd fallen asleep in the cabin the last night, and now it was just the two of them. Nudge tapped his fist with her right hand, and he tapped hers. "Night," she whispered, feeling as if everything she cared about had been ripped away from her. Silently, she curled up against the wall of the cave. "Night, Nudge," whispered Fang. Chapter 26. Oh man, this was not the best day I'd ever had. My shoulder was still bleeding a bit, even though I'd been pressing on it for hours. Every time I jostled it, warm blood oozed through my fingers. I hadn't run into the gun-carrying clowns again, but I'd heard them off and on. I'd been working my way north in a big arc, trying to weave a confusing trail for whoever might be following me. Every time I heard them, I froze for endless minutes, trying to blend in with the brush. Then, cramped and stiffening, I would painstakingly start again. In case they brought dogs, I'd splashed through streams at least 4 times, and let me tell you, trying to keep your balance on moss-covered rocks and icy water with a hurt shoulder is no picnic. I'd felt around on my shoulder and wing, and as far as I could tell, the shot had just scooped out a trail of flesh and wing, but hadn't actually lodged inside. Whatever. My arm and wing felt useless, and they hurt awfully. It was getting late. Angel was somewhere hours away, being subjected to God knows what horror, wondering where I was. I pressed my lips together, trying not to cry. I couldn't fly, couldn't catch up to Fang and Nudge, who were probably furious by now. It wasn't like I could call their cell phones or anything. The situation totally sucked, and it was 100% my own stupid fault, which made it suck even more. Then, of course, it started pouring rain. So now I was slogging my way through wet woods, wet brush, red clay mud, wiping water out of my eyes, getting more chilled and more miserable and more hungry and more insanely furious at myself. I hadn't heard the guys in a long time. They had probably gone home to get out of the rain. A minute later, I blinked and wiped my eyes. I squinted. There were lights ahead. If it was a store or shed, I could wait till everyone left and then hole up for the night. Soon, I was only 10 yards away, hunched down in the darkness, peering through the wet trees. It was a house. A figure passed a window, and my eyebrows raised. It was that girl, Ella. This must be her house. I bit my lip. She probably lived here with her 2 doting parents and her 1.6 siblings. How nice for her. Anyway, I was glad she had gotten home safe. Despite everything, if I had let those horrible guys beat her up, I would never have forgiven myself. I shivered hard, feeling the icy rain run down my back. I was about to fall over. What to do here? Get a plan. I was still waiting for a brilliant inspiration when the side door of the house opened. Ella came out holding a huge umbrella. A shadow moved at her feet. It was a dog, a low-to-the-ground, fat dog. "Come on, Magnolia," Ella called. "Make it fast. You don't want to get too wet." The dog started sniffing around the edge of their yard, snuffling in the weeds, oblivious to the rain. Ella turned and walked up and down, twirling her umbrella, scanning her yard. Her back was to me. Desperate time calls for desperate measures. I don't know who first said that, but they were right on the money. I took a deep breath, then very, very quietly began to move toward Ella. Chapter 27. Okay, 2 more blood samples and the glucose assay will be done. Then we can do the EEGs. Why isn't this over? Where are you, Max? Angel thought sadly as the white coat approached. The front of Angel's dog crate opened and a guy knelt down and peered in at her. She pressed herself against the back as hard as she could. He reached in to grab her hand, where the shunt was, and noticed her face. He turned back to his fellow whitecoats. "What happened to it?" "It bit Riley earlier," someone said. "He hit it." Angel tried to pull herself into a tight little ball. The whole left side of her face throbbed, but she was glad she'd bitten him. She hated him. Hated all of them. Stupid Riley. Guy should work in a car wash. If he wrecks the specimen, I'll kill him. "Doesn't he realize how unique this subject is?" the white coat said angrily. "I mean, this is subject 11. Does he know how long we've been looking for it? You tell Riley not to damage the merchandise." He reached in and tried to take Angel's hand again. Angel didn't know what she should do. The plastic shunt on the back of her hand hurt, and she'd cradled it against her chest. All day she'd had nothing to eat or drink, and they'd made her drink some horrible, sickly, sweet orange stuff. They'd taken blood from her arm, but she'd fought them and bit that one guy. So they'd put a shunt in the back of her hand to make taking blood easier. They'd drawn her blood 3 times already. Angel felt near tears but clenched her jaw. Slowly, she uncoiled herself a tiny bit and edged closer to the opening. She stretched her hand toward the lab guy. "That's it," he said soothingly, and pulled out a needle with a test tube attached. He unclipped the top of the shunt and pushed the needle in. "This won't hurt. Honest." Angel turned away, keeping her back to him, that one hand stretched away from her. It didn't take long, and it didn't hurt. Maybe he was a good whitecoat, like Jeb. And maybe the moon was made out of cream cheese. Chapter 28. "Okay," said Iggy. "We're being very careful. Hello? Gazzy? We're being very careful?" "Check," said the gas man, patting the explosive package they called Big Boy. "Nails?" The gas man rattled the jar. "Check." "Tarp? Cooking oil?" "Check, check." The gas man nodded. "We are geniuses. Those erasers'll never know what hit 'em. If only we had time to dig a pit." "Yeah, and put poisoned stakes at the bottom," Iggy agreed. "But I think what we've got is good. Now we need to fly out, stay out of sight, and check on how the roads run, and whether the erasers have made camp anywhere." "Okay, then we can seed the roads with the nails and set up the tarp and oil," the gas man grinned. "We just have to make sure not to get caught." "Yes, that would be bad," Iggy said with a straight face. "Now, is it night yet?" "Pretty much. I found you some dark clothes." The gas man pressed a shirt and pants into Iggy's hands. "And I've got some too. So, are you ready to roll?" He hoped Iggy couldn't hear how nervous he was. This was a great plan. They had to do it. but failure would be disastrous and probably deadly. Yeah, I'm bringing Big Boy in case an opportunity arises. Iggy changed his clothes, then put their homemade bomb into a backpack and slung it onto his shoulders. Don't worry, he said, as if he could see the gas man's expression. It can't go off till I set the timer. It's like a safety bomb. The gas man tried to smile. He cranked open the hall window as wide as it would go and perched on the ledge. His palms were sweating and his stomach was all fluttery. But he had no choice. This was for Angel. This was to show people what would happen if they messed with his family. He swallowed hard and launched himself out into the night air. It was amazing to be able to spread his wings and fly. It was great. And he felt the night wind against his face, and Gasman's spirit rose. He felt strong, powerful, and dangerous. Not at all like an 8-year-old mutant freak. Chapter 29. Ella? The girl stiffened and jumped back. I stepped forward a bit out of the underbrush so she could see my face. It's me, I said, feeling even stupider. The girl from before? It was getting dark and still raining, and I hoped she could recognize me. The dog trotted over, saw me, and gave a half-hearted woof of warning. Oh, yeah. Hey, thanks for helping me, said Ella, squinting at me through the rain. Are you okay? What are you doing? She sounded wary and glanced around, like maybe in the time since she'd last seen me, I'd gone over to the side of evil. I am okay, I said lamely. Well, actually, I guess I need help. Those words had never left my lips before. Thank God Jeb wasn't here to see me doing something so incredibly boneheaded and weak. Oh, said Ella. Gosh, okay, did those guys... One of them managed to clip me with some shot, if you can believe that, I said, inching closer. Ella gasped and put her hand over her mouth. Oh, no! Why didn't you tell me? You're hurt? Why didn't you go to the hospital? Oh, my gosh, come on in. She stepped back to give me room and urged Magnolia, who had lumbered over and started sniffing my wet clothes with interest, away from me. Guess what? I hesitated. Here was the moment of decision. Until I stepped into that house, I could still turn and run, escape. Once I was in that house, it would be much harder. Call it a little quirk of my personality, but I tend to freak out if I feel trapped anywhere. We all do. The flock, I mean. Living in a cage during your formative years can do that. But I was honest enough with myself to know that I really couldn't go on like this. Wet, cold, starving, and a little wonky from loss of blood. I had to suck it up and accept help. From strangers. Are your parents home? I asked. There's just my mom, said Ella. No, Dad. Come on, let's get you inside. Mom can help. Magnolia, here, girl. Ella turned and strode toward the house. She clomped up the wooden steps, then turned and looked for me. Can you walk okay? Uh-huh. Slowly, I headed towards Ella's small house, which was glowing with warmth and light. I felt lightheaded and panicky. This could be the last huge mistake in a long line of huge mistakes I had already made today. I cradled my hurt arm with my good one. Oh, my God, is that blood? Ella said, staring at my pale blue sweatshirt. Oh, no, come in. We have to get you inside, quick. She shoved the door open with her shoulder, almost tripping on Magnolia, who trotted in quickly. Mom, this girl needs help. I felt frozen. Stay or run. Stay or run. Stay? Chapter 30. You think that wire will hold? The gas man whispered. Iggy nodded, frowning as he twisted the two cable ends together with pliers. He leaned against a pine tree for leverage, and when the wire was tight, he snapped on the cable clamp and pinched it shut. That'll hold a bit, he whispered back, until a certain Hummer hits it at top speed. The gas man nutted grimly. What a night. They had gotten so much done. Max couldn't have done better herself. He hoped Max had already rescued Angel by now. He hoped nothing had gone wrong. If the Whitecoats had gotten hold of Angel, for just an instant he saw her, white and lifeless, laid on a cold steel slab while Whitecoats lectured about her unusual bone structure. He swallowed and shook the dreadful image off. Once more he glanced around, listening. "Back home?" Iggy whispered. "Yeah." Standing up, the gas man pushed off from the ground, staying close to the trees. He followed Iggy's dark shadow as he braked and headed back west, toward home. From up here, the gas man couldn't see any of their handiwork, which was a good thing. They didn't want the eraser's chopper to be able to pick out the tarp or the tripwire until it was too late. "We covered the ways in and out," he said to Iggy once they were at cruising height. "Oil slick, nails in the road, tripwire. That should do it." Iggy nodded. "I'm bummed we couldn't use Big Boy," he said, "but I don't want to waste it. We have to actually see them first. I mean, you do." "Maybe tomorrow," the gas man said encouragingly. "We'll go out and see what havoc we've wreaked." "Rot," said Iggy. "Whatever," said the gas man, breathing deeply in the cool night air. Wait till Max found out how cool they had been. Chapter 31. A dark-haired woman with worried eyes opened the door wider. "What is it, Ella? What's wrong?" "Mom, this is—" Ella stopped, her hand in midair. "Max," I said. Why didn't I give a fake name? Because I didn't think of it. "My friend Max. She's the girl I told you about, the one who saved me from Jose and Dwayne and them. She saved me, but they shot her." "Oh, no," exclaimed Ella's mother. "Please, come in, Max. Do you want me to call your parents?" I stood on the doormat, reluctant to drip rain and blood on their floor. Then Ella's mom saw my blood-stained sweatshirt and her eyes flew to my face. My cheek was scratched, one eye was black. The whole situation changed in that instant. "Let me get my stuff," she said gently. "Take off your shoes and go with Ella to the bathroom." I sloshed down the hallway in my wet socks. "What stuff is she going to get?" I whispered. Ella turned on a light and ushered me into an old-fashioned bathroom with green tiles and a rust ring around the sink drain. "Her doctor stuff," Ella whispered back. "She's a vet, so she's good with injuries, even on people." "A vet!" I started laughing weakly and had to sit down on the edge of the tub. A vet. Wait till they found out how appropriate that was. Ella's mom came in with a plastic box of first aid supplies. "Ella, maybe you could get Max some juice or something. She probably needs some sugar and fluids." "Juice would be great," I said with feeling. Ella nodded and hurried down the hall. "I take it you don't want me to call your parents?" Ella's mom said softly, starting to cut away the neck of my sweatshirt. No. Hello, lab? May I speak with a test tube, please?" "Or the police either, right?" "No need to get them involved," I agreed. Then I sucked in my breath as her gentle fingers found the wound on my upper arm. "I think the bullet only grazed me." "Yes, I think you're right, but it's pretty deep and messy. And over here—" I sat frozen, staring straight ahead as all my senses tensed. I was taking a huge risk here. You have no idea how huge. I had never, ever let someone outside the flock see my wings. But this was one situation I couldn't fix by myself. I hated that. Ella's mom frowned slightly. She finished cutting the neck and then stretched the shirt off, leaving me in my tank top. I sat there like a statue, feeling a chilled coldness inside that had nothing to do with being wet. "Here," Ella handed me a big glass of orange juice. I practically choked, trying to drink it down as fast as possible. Oh my God, it was so good. "What?" Ella's mom said, her fingers skimming along the edge of my wing where it folded and tucked into an indentation next to my spine, between my shoulder and my waist. She leaned over to see better. I stared at my wet socks, toes clenching. She turned me slightly, and I let her. "Max?" Her dark brown eyes were concerned, tired, and upset all at once. "Max, what is this?" she asked gently, touching the feathers that were just barely visible. I swallowed hard, knowing that I had just lost any hope for a normal connection with Ella and her mom. In my mind, I reviewed the house layout. A right down the hall, a quick left, and through the front door. It would probably only take a few seconds. I could do it. I could probably grab my boots on the way out, too. "It's a wing?" I whispered. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ella frown. "My, wing." Silence. It got hurt, too. I took a deep breath, feeling like I was going to hurl, then slowly and painfully extended my wing just a bit so Ella's mom could see where I'd been shot. Their eyes widened, and widened, and widened, until I began to expect them to just pop out and land on the floor. "What?" Ella began wonderingly. Her mom leaned over and examined it more closely. Amazingly, she was trying to act casual, like, "Oh, okay, you have a wing. No biggie." I was practically hyperventilating, feeling lightheaded and kind of tunnel vision-y. "Yeah, your wing got hit too," Ella's mom murmured, extending it ever so gently. "I think the shot nicked a bit of bone." She sat back and looked at me. I stared at the floor, feeling the weight of her gaze. I could not believe I was in this situation. Fang was going to kill me. And after I was dead, he would kill me again. And I deserved it. Ella's mom took a deep breath and let it out. "Okay, Max," she said in a calm, controlled voice. "First, we have to clean the wounds and stop the bleeding. When's the last time you had a tetanus shot?" I stared up into her eyes. Ella's mom seemed no nonsense and incredibly caring about me. I had become a huge crybaby in the last couple days, so I wasn't surprised to feel tears haze my vision. Never? Okay, we can take care of that too." Chapter 32. Come on, the gas man breathed. He was holding on to the pine branch so hard that he could barely feel his fingers anymore. "What's happening?" Iggy demanded impatiently. "Tell me everything." It was early morning, and the two of them were perched near the top of an old-growth pine overlooking one of the abandoned logging roads. They had cased the situation, and the gas man had been right. At least 2 erasers, maybe more, had set up a rough camp not far from where the helicopter had landed. It seemed clear that they were looking for the rest of the flock. It didn't matter whether they wanted to kill them or only kidnap them. Capture was unthinkable. The gas man still had nightmares in which he found himself back at the school. He dreamed that whitecoats took blood, injected him with various drugs to see how he reacted, made him run and jump and then swallow radioactive dye so they could study his circulation. Days and endless weeks and years of feeling sick, hurting, vomiting, being exhausted, being stuck in a cage. The gas man would die before he went back there. Angel would rather have died too, he knew, but she hadn't had a choice. "The Hummer's coming," the gas man said under his breath. "On the road, right?" "Uh-huh. And they're driving too fast." The gas man gave a tight, worried smile. "They're not practicing safe driving habits. Tisk, what a shame." "Okay, they're coming up," the gas man muttered. "Another quarter mile. Can you see the tarp?" "No." The gas man watched tensely as the muddied black Humvee sped down the unpaved logging road. "Any second now," he whispered to Iggy, who was practically vibrating with excitement. "Hope they're wearing their seat belts." "Not." Then it happened. It was like watching a movie. 1 second, the boxy black vehicle was tearing along the road, and the next second it swerved violently to the left with an audible squealing of brakes. It began to slow, graceless series of jerky spins down the road, then gave unexpected jump toward the trees on one side. It hit the trees at an angle and went airborne, sailing upside down about 15 feet before landing with a heavy crunching sound. Whoa, said the gas man softly. That was incredible. You have 2 seconds to give me the picture, Iggy said irritably. It hit the oil all right. It spun, hit the trees, did a flip, the gas man told him. Now it's on its back like a big, ugly, dead beetle. Yes, Iggy punched the air, making their branch sway. Signs of life? Oh, yeah. Yeah, one of them just punched out a window. Now they're climbing out. They look pretty dang mad. They're walking, so they're not that hurt. The gas man wanted the erasers out of the picture, so he wouldn't have to worry about them anymore. At the same time, he wasn't sure how he would feel if they had actually died. Then he remembered that they had taken Angel. He decided he was probably okay with them suffering a life-threatening accident. Shoot, Iggy sounded disappointed. Any point in dropping Big Boy on them right now? The gas man shook his head, remembered Iggy couldn't see it, and said, I don't think so. They're talking on walkie-talkies. Now they're heading straight into the woods. We'd probably cause a huge forest fire or something. Iggy frowned. Okay, we need to regroup, come up with phase 2. How about we hang out at the old cabin for a minute? Cool, said the gas man. Let's go. We've done enough good for one day. Chapter 33. 80 years ago, loggers had used a makeshift cabin nearby as a base during logging season. Abandoned for the last 30 years, it was practically in ruins, which made it an especially good clubhouse for the flock. So phase 1 is complete, said Iggy, sitting in a broken plastic lawn chair. He sniffed the air. We haven't been here in ages. Uh-huh, said the gas man, glancing around. In case you're wondering, it's still a dump. It's always been a dump, Iggy said. That's why we like it. Man, I can't get over it. That tart full of oil so totally wiped the Hummer out, the gas man said. It was kind of scary to really do it. Iggy opened the backpack and took out Big Boy, running his sensitive fingers over the clock duct taped to the explosive package. We have to eliminate the erasers, he murmured, so they can never hurt us again. So they can't ever take Angel again, the gas man said, his eyes narrowing. I say we bomb the chopper. Iggy nodded and stood up. Yeah. Listen, let's get out of here, get back home, make more plans. In the next instant, the faintest vibration of the floorboards made Iggy freeze. The gas man quickly looked at him and saw Iggy's sightless eyes flick to and fro. Did you hear? The gas man whispered, and Iggy nodded, holding up his hand. Maybe a raccoon. Not in the daytime, Iggy barely mouthed back. The slight scratching on the door made the gas man's blood turn to ice in his veins. Surely it was just an animal, a squirrel or something. Little pigs, let me come in. The whispered voice, serene and angelic, seemed to float through the cracks in the door like poisonous smoke. It was an eraser's voice, a voice that could ask you to jump off a cliff and you'd do it. Heart pounding, the gas man quickly scanned the room. The door. 2 windows. One in the main room and a tiny one in the bathroom. He doubted he could fit through the one in the bathroom, much less Iggy. The eraser scratched the door again, and the hairs on the back of the gas man's neck stood up. Okay, the window in here then. He began to edge his way over to it, knowing that Iggy would be able to follow the almost imperceptible sound. Crash! The doors burst open, splintering wood flying through the air like darts. 8 o'clock, the gas man whispered, telling Iggy where the window was as his brain registered the hulking eraser filling in the doorway. His muscles tensed for the leap through the window, but its light was suddenly blocked by a huge, grinning head. Hey, piggy, 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 the second eraser taunted through the dirt-clouded glass. Years of max enforced training kicked in as his adrenaline sped through the gas man's body. Door blocked, window blocked. They were surrounded with no clean escape available. It was going to be a fight, he realized, already preparing himself. More than likely, a fight to the death.